Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. We are coming off of gaming's biggest night, the Game Awards. However, I don't know how much it really feels that way for Nintendo fans these days. We will be chatting about the award show as well as some of the news from the aforementioned world of Nintendo. And joining me to break it all down is Electric Playground's Victor Lucas. Victor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. It's great to see your face. So much has changed in your world since we last talked. Congratulations, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it has been a while since we've had you on the show. God, I think you've been on the show 2 or 3 times before this one. Always love diving into your wealth of knowledge. You know, we were talking before the show that I'm coming up on my 18th year doing this in this industry, which sounds like a lot. But then I look at the guy I'm talking to. How long have you been doing this?
30 years at this point, which is a crazy thing to say. And you know, you certainly don't plan for, you know, it was a dream, right? So you don't plan for your dream to just keep going and going and going. But I've been very lucky, knock on wood. I love what I get to do just as much as I always have, you know, even probably more. Like, I think as the years go on, I'm sure you kind of feel this way too, is you have like this moment of just awareness and perspective and gratitude, you know, and I have that every freaking day. I always have, but it amplifies.
Yeah, and there are definitely challenging times. There's definitely difficult situations, stressful situations.
Absolutely.
But I don't think either of us, I've never heard you be ungrateful towards the career that you've been allowed to have. And I never have felt ungrateful either. And it's like, even in those difficult moments, I have to kind of remind myself that, like, you know, I'm able to cover the industry that was like, has been my longest running hobby in my entire life, right? My number one hobby and my longest running hobby. I think I've been doing since I was, you know, probably 4 or 5 years old, playing NES at my aunt and uncle's house. And now here we are, 30 plus years later.
I feel, Brian, like it's more than a hobby. You know, I know it's tough to kind of wrap a word around what games mean to us, you know, probably everybody that's watching and listening. And hobby is that word, but don't you feel like it's more than that? Like, I don't know, man. It's a beautiful escapism, but holy crap, is it powerful when it really connects and you really are threaded into the experience. You know, I was thinking a lot of that. We're going to talk about the Game Awards, but I was thinking about that last night. Like, what a cavalcade of influences and inspirations and different backgrounds. There were actors and directors and you know, game makers and like, I don't know, just from every discipline, musicians, like every kind of art discipline, all represented there. And I don't know if any of the other awards, you know, presentations and productions that happen quite hit that same way. You know, games are really, it's because we're invested in the art. You know, we don't just sit there and watch it. We're like the participants in it. We're a part of the art. And it's so profound, you know. It's hard, you know that it's hard. It's hard to just boil it all down into what games mean, and hobby just sounds so slight for how much it means to me.
I think for a lot of people it is a hobby, but like, and it started as a hobby for me, right? It was what I would like do my homework so my parents would let me. I would go outside and play sports with my friends when I was a kid.
Oh, a little foreshadowing.
and then they would allow, like, my parents had a rule where it's like, all right, for every hour that you spend outside during summer, you could play games or watch TV for 30 minutes. And that was kind of the rule to get me to go outside all day. And then in the evenings, I could come back and be like, all right, I banked like, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours of game time or watching like cartoons or whatever. And, you know, so that was the time where it was a hobby. And then when, you know, I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions, like, it really did, outside of just being a career, it really became like a lifestyle. I would say, like, you know, Marvel movies, that is a hobby for me, right? Like, that is the type of thing where it's like, oh, there's a new Marvel movie coming out or a new DC movie. I'm going to go to the theaters and see that and be really excited and dive into it through podcasts. But it's not this all-consuming thing like gaming is for me, where it's like, I literally wrote an article on Game Informer several years back called How Gaming Shaped My Life. Right. And, you know, it's everything from like, I got into Gran Turismo 3 on PlayStation 2 really hard, and it really like developed this enthusiasm with cars. And like I was just
Yeah.
like, I could name any make or model of car back
Wild.
during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's
You know
like
what it is, man? I think it's because games, when I was a kid, I saw Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Superman and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do what those actors are. I want to act, I want to be all these characters. And so I did sort of progress that way, but I also loved video games that whole time. And I think it is that role play, that true role play that we get in games. It becomes part of our life, but we get to exist in multitudes in these lives that we get to live in these games. And
Yeah.
that's a really freaking profound thing. It's not the same as watching, sedentary passive entertainment where you're just being entertained by or shocked or stimulated by some cool story that's being presented. You're freaking in that story. You're
Yeah.
invested in that story and what happens and the twists and turns. It's incredible.
And it
Not
can
every
even teach
game.
you skills. It can even
It
teach
can
you
teach you
skills.
skills. Yeah.
I told this story in the that article that I wrote where it's like I loved Virtua Tennis back on Dreamcast
Yeah.
and Mario Tennis on N64 obviously, and
Yep.
well, even before that I loved like the EA Sports games on Genesis, and
Yes.
like Triple Play Gold Edition like really got me into baseball, and that was when I
Yeah.
really started devoting a lot of time to wanting to be like a really good baseball player.
Great.
And I remember I right before tryouts in like I think it was sophomore year of high school, I sprained my ankle really severely and had to miss the entire season. And then I was just never the same baseball player again. But
Right.
junior year rolled around and it was time for tryouts, and I was like, I don't think that I'm like I haven't been keeping up with it because I was like rehabbing this ankle. But I really loved Virtua Tennis and Mario Tennis. What if I went out for the tennis team, having never picked
Mm.
up a tennis racket in my life? And I knew all the rules, I knew all the strategies, and I made the team. and
Wow.
and then fast forward 3 years, I was actually like a kid's tennis instructor in the summers during college. So it
Wow.
was
Because of games. That's
because of video
amazing.
games. And then the
Well,
same thing. Go ahead.
I have one of those. I was in acting school, and it was great. I mean, it almost is a form of therapy, right? Because they get you to do all these different disciplines. You get to, obviously act like you're a tree facing the sun and stuff like that. And you got mask work and movement. I was learning how to tap dance and all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, they throw you into scene study, and some of it gets really intense, and you have to hit some emotions that you're not feeling that day. And then we would always be quizzed afterwards on how we were able to reach this moment and reach the truth of the moment. And one of them, I was really frustrated in a piece that I did. I can't remember any of that right now, but the instructor said, okay, well, how did you get there? And I said, well, I was playing this game last night and I was just kicking my butt, and I was
Channeled
raging,
those
and I was like ready to
emotions.
throw the controller, and I just tapped in how angry the game was making me, and everybody laughed. But it's like, it's true.
Yeah.
These things, they infect us. They come into our world like that. It's incredible.
It even goes back to like tactile skills as well, not just channeling those emotions or channeling like strategies. Like I
Yeah,
have saved myself from a car accident no fewer than 2 times
because of
because
Gran Turismo.
because of Gran Turismo, because of Need for Speed
That's
Underground, because like I
okay.
hydroplaned one time and I'm like losing control,
Wow.
and I was able to slowly like straighten out the fishtailing that I was doing because of like those drifting
Wow.
games back on like PlayStation 2 and 3. And
Oh my
then
God.
just last year, I was picking up my partner from the airport, and a
Have
snowstorm
you
was
told
hitting.
Yamauchi-san this?
I
You got to tell him.
haven't.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
but I was on the way back, and it was a huge snow and ice storm in Minnesota, and I'm driving down the highway and cars are just like skidding all over the place. It was like cars were crisscrossing in front of me. I'm like, what is going on? It turns out that the highway had frozen solid. So
Oh,
I tap my brakes just to like avoid some of these cars that are like skidding out of control in front of me. It
yeah.
legitimately looked like a chase scene in a movie where like cars are just spinning out and like flying everywhere. Basically, like
Oh my
nobody's
God.
rolling, but like I'm like,
Yeah.
this is like an asteroid field in Star Wars right now.
Right.
And
Oh.
I tap the brake, my car turns completely sideways, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Welp, I'm going 50 miles an hour down an icy highway, and I am completely sideways." And
Oh.
I was somehow able to somewhat straighten it out and steer over to the side, like the shoulder, without hitting the barrier, all while on ice skates, basically,
Oh,
because
bro.
of my history with racing games. Like,
Oh my
you know,
God.
it's absurd. That should not have
Yeah.
translated whatsoever, but like the physics in some of these games are so realistic, it actually did translate.
Oh yeah. I mean, that Gran Turismo movie,
Oh yeah.
directed by Neil Blomkamp, I think, if I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
mistaken. Yeah, that was way better than it should have been, but it was all about that, wasn't it? You know, it
It
was
was,
really
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so gaming has real world applications, and I think it does transcend the traditional definition of a hobby, as you had mentioned. So
Yeah, or
good
just
call
the
out there.
traditional definition of of entertainment. I feel, you
Yeah.
know, like it is the synthesis of so many of the ways that we have learned how to express ourselves. I mean, when you look at how incredible video games are, and you and I both have the life experience to know where they came from and to see where they are now, it's really hard not to think, yeah, maybe we are living in a simulation. If you extrapolate, it's really difficult not to think, you know what, games feel so freaking realistic already. What are they gonna what's it gonna feel like, you know, in 100 years? It's crazy, you know. But I think you got to be tuned in a bit. You've got to have played them and get lost in them and gone hunting in Red Dead Redemption 2 for a day, and to kind of like recognize, the power of this medium. It's incredible, and Jeff
Absolutely.
Keighley certainly knows that. And I mean, he had the freaking Muppets. Yeah, like we're not going to talk about it yet, but it was just a crazy, like it's like it was like an acid trip, that show. Like there was so many. Lenny Kravitz was like, what was
Yeah.
happening? Like just so many random things were going on. It's so crazy, you know. And I don't. The Oscars aren't that. You know, the
Mm-mm.
Oscars are pretty much like, yeah, everybody's in a flick and they're high ranked movie stars and there's kind of decorum about the whole thing. I mean, it was nuts, but beautiful. You
It
know,
would be
super
very
cool.
funny if some outspoken director got up at the Oscars, threw the middle finger at the camera, and said "F the Game Awards" the way Joseph Fares did several years ago in that very memeable moment. Uh,
I
that
I like give it 10 years. I think we're going to see that exact thing, man.
who's most likely to do that? Is it Quentin
Quentin
Tarantino?
Tarantino.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we both
He's
went
in
the
his
exact
F
same.
everything stage right now.
Oh my
He's like
gosh.
he's so catty. It's so gross. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, these
Yeah.
are beloved people. Just shut up.
Yeah, I don't know
Like,
what he's I guess he's on his last movie, right? So like
yeah.
allegedly anyway. So maybe
Yeah.
he's just like, screw it. I don't need to keep any of these bridges intact.
Did you see Zach Wood's takedown of Tarantino?
Oh no, I
Search
didn't. I saw
search that out.
I will
Yeah.
definitely do that.
He's hilarious.
But Victor, we have some news to get into.
Okay.
First, we're going to talk about non-game awards news, and then we're going to, in the main segment here, talk about just all the stuff out of the game awards. But before we
Cool.
jump into the first news topics of the show, just a reminder: you are listening to the All Things Nintendo podcast. This show arrives in your podcast feeds completely free each and every Friday, brought to you by the fine folks who support me on Patreon. Without people like them, this show simply would not exist. You can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. That gets you access to the community Discord, which lets you hang out with fellow listeners of the show. But there are also $5 and $10 tiers to get you things like early and ad-free episodes, plus shout outs at the end of every show. Just go to patreon.com and search All Things Nintendo. It's only because of the wonderful folks that support this show that it is able to continue each and every week. All right, so as we kick off the news, like I said, I want to dive into some of the non-TGA stuff before we get into our main talkers of
Are
this
we
episode.
talking tariffs and stuff? Like, are we talking about international policy? What are we talking about?
Well, we got some new games added to the Nintendo Switch Online catalogs. Very,
Oh,
very,
yes.
very close, Victor. We were almost there.
Yeah.
We've talked about tariffs several times on this show. Doesn't bring the nicest comments sometimes, but
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
a thing that impacts the industry.
Yeah.
But on the Nintendo Switch Online catalog, first up, N64 catalog got two new games. We got Rayman 2, The Great Escape, and Tonic Trouble, which are joining
Yeah.
the service on December 17th. I've played a little bit of Rayman 2, but I've never played Tonic Trouble. Do you have any history with these games?
Yeah, we didn't. We reviewed him. We reviewed both of them on the show on Electric Playground. That was pre-Reviews on the Run or Judgment Day spinning out as their own thing. Rayman 2 blew my mind on the N64. It was beautiful. I think it was maybe one of the closest approximations to the Super Mario 64 glow. And I think it was all that Michel Ancel, led French beautiful glow on and the absurdist kind of quality of everything. Here was this character that didn't have any connective limbs between his digits, his extremities, and he had like a hair that turned into a propeller, and so he could hover a little bit. But great level design, great characters. You were rescuing little characters trapped in prisons and things like that. Maybe a little Vive la France, French Revolution kind of vibe in the whole thing. But I loved it. I love Rayman as a character, as a concept. I think he's just a great little dude. And there's been a little more clamor about Rayman because of this, and the social media has been piping up a little bit. So hopefully there is something new in the Rayman verse coming, because there's been a consistency, like the Rayman Legends games, and I love the Rayman on the GBC, which I think Mod Retro just has released for their Chromatic, their little Game Boy device, because that's a 30-year anniversary on that. And the Jaguar Rayman game was pretty darn fun. And but Rayman 2, I think, is still kind of the zenith. I think it hasn't been eclipsed yet. And it was wonderful. Tonic Trouble, we did play it and didn't like it. That's all I can remember about it. I feel like there was some weird clipping and like some camera issues. I'm trying to recall, but we didn't. I remember not enjoying it and expecting to enjoy it, because at the time Rayman 2 was out, Ubisoft had this, steps of like some pretty well received titles already, and they were totally on the glow up. They were going places, and we could feel that this was a really cool company with some great ideas. And Rayman was a big part of that. And so there was an expectation out of Tonic Trouble on N64 to be really fun. And I can't even remember which one came first, but I just remember feeling like Tonic Trouble wanted it to be a lot better than it ended up being.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is the story with a lot of N64 games. I have been diving in some of the deeper cuts on the N64, and of all the games on that app, do you know which one has hooked me completely?
Dr. Mario.
Close. Pokemon Puzzle League.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm having so much fun with that. I somehow completely missed. I was obsessed with Pokemon at that time when it came out, but that was one that I just completely missed. I pretty much just jumped straight into Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium, but I missed Pokemon Puzzle League. But man, I am all about the puzzle games right now. I've been playing Luminous Arise. I've been diving back into Tetris Effect, and then this is scratching that exact same itch.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. The N64 doesn't have the coolest library, but there are some real gems. I got the Analog 3D. I don't know if you pick one of those up.
I do.
And what's in it right now is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. And I don't know if you've gone back to that recently, but that's a freaking classic experience.
That's a top 5 N64 for me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still so fun to play in 2025. It's still so much Star Wars immersion. It was made with so much love. And I cannot believe, like, I'm excited about Galactic Racer and Fate of the Old Republic. We'll talk about those, but I can't believe they're sitting on this brand, this Rogue Squadron brand. Right. They could bring these classics and remake them, and they could make a new one in the series, and it's amazing.
Well, they were going to do a Rogue Squadron movie, right? And then that got canceled.
And now it's Star Wars Starfighter with Ryan Gosling. I think they pivoted to that, so and hopefully that's good. We'll see. It was good to see the Star Wars love in the Game Awards, but yeah, Rogue Squadron's awesome. Wave Race, you didn't get hooked on that?
Oh, I love Wave Race, but I was hooked on that back in the day. So I knew that was one of the first N64 games I ever played.
Yeah.
And it was like, of course.
Wonderful game.
This game's incredible. I remember the water physics and like the way the water just looked blew my mind back in like 1997 or whatever.
Still amazing. 2025. It's still a great, whether you have the cartridge or you play it on NSO, it's still incredible. Star Fox 64 is up there.
Oh.
My family obsessed with Dr. Mario 64. We play that all the time, and I get killed by both my wife and my daughter. I always lose. I think I've won like one out of the last 100 times we played.
Wow.
But I keep going.
Well, we also
All
got a
good.
new addition on the GameCube side.
Yes.
Wario World is available now,
Yeah.
and this is like, the 3D Wario platforming
Yep.
game, and it's out on the GameCube on Switch too. This was one that I completely missed when I was a kid, but I always saw ads for it. I've seen like people profess their love for this game in the years
Yep.
since. So
Yep.
I have not had a chance to dive into this
I
on
did.
NSO, but I'm excited to.
I did. I actually, this is a weird one because I was in Toronto for an event and did I downloaded this in a hotel. There was another game that I downloaded from the plane because the planes have Wi-Fi now. And that was the first time where I downloaded a game to my Switch 2 on the plane, which was so weird to me. But I downloaded this at the hotel and played it for a little bit and got instantly hooked. I did Treasure make this? I can't remember if
Oh
they were
God.
the
Let's
developers on
see.
this one, but it's really, really slick and really quite beautiful. It's 4:3, so there's no 16:9 mode on it, and some of the GameCube games do have the widescreen, um, but it still looks so sharp and runs so clean at 60 frames per second. And I, I think through things like Pizza Tower and what was that other one that came out last year?
Anton Blast.
Anton Blast. There's been this kind of like a new realization of how unique those Wario Land games were, and what a cool character he is. He's kind of indestructible in a way, like it takes a lot to get him, and his attacks are amazing. They're so aggressive. And yeah, I think it's really well translated into 3D. It's just really fun, and it's very different from all the other, Mario and Yoshi type experiences. It's really good.
Yeah, that's definitely near the top of my list of like games I need to dive into now that it's
Yep.
available.
Yep.
But both of these groups of editions are available now through the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, or rather, I should say that the N64 ones are coming next week, but the
That's right.
Wario World one is available now. And yeah, but you do have to have the expansion pack in order to access both the N64 and the GameCube library, and also you have to have a Switch 2 to access the GameCube library.
Yeah.
So just something to keep in mind if you want to check these out. But yeah, we talked about this. I think maybe the first time you came on All Things Nintendo,
Yeah.
that I've really come around on the idea of Nintendo Switch Online's libraries as opposed to like Virtual Console, because just so many games that I would never have paid money, like extra money to play. But the
Exactly.
fact that they have it, it's that Netflix effect of like, oh well, I have the subscription anyway. Let me just look at what this is.
I open those apps all the time, and we're in the media, so we have 1,000 things that we're
Mhm.
cooking on all the time. So it's hard to say, okay, well, I'm going to sit and put 10 hours into this now. It's tough, but
It
I
is.
do. I do like jumping into these classics and playing them. My current obsession is actually this freaking Chromatic, and I just picked up. Somebody walked away with my Kirby's Pinball Land cartridge for the
Oh
Game Boy,
no.
and so I bought it again. I bought it on eBay, and it's such a great game, and it's a great, just like you get 10 minutes or whatever, you just want to pop in and play something for a little while. I can't wait till that comes to NSO as well, so you can save it at any time. But really, really cool. I'm a huge fan of the NSO titles. Not a fan of the titling, the naming conventions, and I think some of the updating and stuff like that could go a little bit smoother. I feel like every time you load it, it's got to update something.
Yeah.
It's weird that the N64 is broken up into mature and not mature. That's
It's
just weird.
so weird. I guess it's because of the parental controls. They want people to be able
Yeah.
to download like, all right,
Yes.
well, if there's an M-rated game, we've got to rate the entire app M-rated, and then I guess the parental controls are
Yeah. No, I get
like
why you
you
got to
can't
do it.
download
It's just,
anything M-rated.
it's weird.
It is. I wish there was a more elegant solution. It is strange.
Yep.
It's like, all right, I'm going to play N64. Really want to play Perfect Dark. Oh, I went into the wrong N64 app.
Yeah. Yeah.
Victor, remind me. I know you're a big TMNT fan. I see over your shoulder there are some Turtles figures.
Yes.
I am a
Yeah.
before I was a Sonic fan, before I was a Mario fan, I was a TMNT fan. So I
Yep.
still harbor this love and adoration and nostalgia for this franchise to this day. Have
Yep.
you played Splintered Fate?
I have. I played it on the iPhone because it was part of
Oh,
the
all right,
Apple
yeah.
Arcade collection for a little while. and I streamed it and I talked about it on the show, but I streamed it for hours, and I like it, but it's repetitive. I think
Mm-hmm.
that there's a lot of cool stuff in it. What I admire about this game, though, is that it's always in the news. Somehow, since it's launched, it's just been popping up again and again. So clearly, the developers and the publisher believe in it and love it, and they're adding to it. And I think people are coming around to it and really dig it. It's kind of like a Hades Diablo kind of
Mm-hmm.
experience with the turtles, and it's pretty damn fun. It's just not as fun as Shredder's Revenge, or the Cowabunga collection
Or
that
Hades for
Digital
that matter,
Eclipse,
which
or Hades
that's
or
the
Diablo.
biggest problem, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if you are flying or veering so close to one game's or one
yeah,
very popular or very good game's formula, and you're not as good as that, even if you have a beloved IP, it makes it a tough
yes,
sell because it's like,
yes,
hey, you like Turtles, right? You like Hades, right? Why don't you play this Turtles Hades like game? And
yeah,
then you're like, well, I just finished playing Hades 2. Let me jump
yeah,
into TMNT Splintered Fate. And you're like, this feels like a downgrade, even though I have a love for the Turtles. And even though it is a very good game, it's just
yeah,
not, a 10 out of 10 like Game Informer
yeah,
gave Hades 2.
yeah,
But like you're saying, they are doing incredible support. They put out DLC characters. They're putting out, I think, a big expansion with like new content. It was either recently or in the very near future they've announced that they're doing this. And
yeah.
then that is the reason that we're talking about this game in the first place, is because they are releasing a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of this game.
Right.
And it's been on Switch, I think, for about a year and a half now. I think it was
Yep.
April 2024 that it came to Switch after being an Apple Arcade game. It was like Switch and PC, and then it's come to PS5 and Xbox, I think, in the time since. So it's been on Switch 1, but for $2.50, you can now upgrade your Switch 1 version to the Switch 2 version, which boosts it to 4K and 60 frames per second, or if you're in handheld, it's 1080p.
Yeah.
Plus support for game share if you're local, and then game chat. But it comes out December 16th. So next week you can take advantage of
Cool.
this.
That's super cool.
I might dive back in because I've
Me
reviewed
too,
it.
actually.
Yeah, when it first came out, I reviewed it and I gave it a pretty good score. Again, not a 10 out
Yeah.
of 10 like Hades 2 got from Game Informer, but like I think it was like high sevens, low eights. It was a very solid experience. But they
Yeah.
put out so much content and like
Yes.
additional stuff since then. It's like, man, I bet it's a substantially better experience. I bet it's like
Yeah.
not quite like, all right, I played No Man's Sky when it first came out. Now I'm going to jump back in 2025. It's not
It's
to
a
that
totally different
scale,
game. Yeah.
but yeah, like it is probably something more transformative than what we normally get with, especially indie games that kind of get thrown out there, and then sometimes
Yep.
those studios, because they're so small, just have to move fully on to the next thing. This seems
Yeah.
like they're sticking with it. They're really supporting it, and
I
they're
like that. Yeah.
improving it. And I
And
love that.
every
Yeah.
time I get a press release about it, I'm intrigued to check it out again. I am. It's just where's the crack in time that allows me to, do that.
That's the eternal question.
Yeah.
Victor, I have seen you cross over from games into movies, back to games. So this is a story that exists right at that intersection. I think you
Yeah.
probably know what I'm talking about, and that is Warner Brothers. It is up for
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
Netflix made a deal to buy the company for more than $80 billion, which would
Hmm.
include HBO and its properties, so like Game of Thrones and all those, the DC Universe, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Warner Brothers games.
Yeah.
So that seemed like, okay, that's a seismic shift. Hopefully, not a terrible thing. Hopefully, it all works out in the end. However, shortly thereafter, Paramount launched a hostile takeover attempt, basically circumventing the executives who made this deal with Netflix and instead appealing to the shareholders, offering
Hmm.
them a bigger payout. 'Cause I think like Netflix was offering shareholders something like $27 and change for each share that they held. So, that could be a decent chunk of change. Whereas Paramount offered them $30 a share. So, it doesn't sound like much, but if you have hundreds of shares, that adds up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then they also valued Warner Brothers at more than $108 billion. So it's
Right.
absolute madness in the world of Warner Brothers. And unfortunately, I came into it with optimism, like in terms of like, hopefully it works out for the best. But no matter what happens, it's probably going to result in, inferior products because it's just companies buying up their competition and consolidating
Yeah.
media companies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that leads to layoffs, which is the other unfortunate part of this, and very scary given the media landscape that we've all existed in over the past decade.
Yeah.
But Victor, what do you make of all of this?
It's a really complicated shift. It's seismic, absolutely. I'm not crazy about Paramount taking it over because they seem to be really injecting a political kind of viewpoint into this. I mean, I keep hearing about massive changes that might happen to the news component because CNN is a part of all of this, and
Yeah.
that doesn't sound good to me. I'm a Stephen Colbert fan, and to see his show being canceled in this political climate, and they're already under the ownership auspices of Paramount. So that did not sit well with me at all. That it was going into the hands of Paramount. So I was a little bit marginally happier that Netflix was going to be taking it over. But then I've been reading that the video game division was not something that they were even really considering at Netflix. They really saw it as not very much value additive to this whole equation. And that freaks me out because
Yeah.
Warner Brothers has the keys to not just what they're currently working on, which presumably is Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Batman and probably a Superman thing, but also they have so much intellectual property that is so conducive to great games going forward. And under the right, and they own the Midway collection as well, like this series of classic retro games that have been squandered. And I think probably because Warner Brothers has had to be sort of bounced around under different leadership and different sort of stock evaluations and a million other things as a total corporate brand, but also their games just sort of, it's like they're on the tail end of the bouncing dragon or something like that. They just don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a little bit freaked out, but and obviously AI is a part of this equation, and Oracle owns the people that own Paramount own Oracle, and Oracle's a huge player in the AI space and the cloud services space that AI needs. And we just saw this Disney deal just happened yesterday with OpenAI and Disney and their properties. And so AI is going to be an equation in the construct of content and the makeup of these companies and what the layoffs are all going to be. And through it all, it's going to be a lot of stuff getting, broken up and shattered and people losing their work. But the other side of it is I think we're going to see new startups and new creative businesses and new creative companies maybe using the tools that AI also offer to move quicker and to realize things a little bit quicker. I think there's no escaping the use of AI at this point,
Yeah, it feels like the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means without a lot of conjecture, but I feel like there's going to be a total shift in the size and scale of businesses. My big fear around AI and all of this sort of shrinking of things, which includes jobs, is like in this rush to build more, quicker, and scale up. It's not like we are devoid of things to be entertained by now.
We've never had more entertainment available to us at any given moment in human history than we have right now.
So do we need to amplify that like 100-fold with AI? Like, do we need 100 times more or 1,000 times more things to kill time with? I don't think we do, So that, and how do you make money? Like, how does any business make money if everything is being handled by like there's already a discoverability issue on everything. Like, how many streaming shows are not being watched? How many games are not being played? How many movies are not being tickets aren't being sold for? And we want to do more of that.
Yeah.
And then the people that would show up have no money because they have no job. Like the economics of this makes no sense to me,
And all of these shows that like come out, like you're saying, like they used to have a lot longer leashes. It used to be like a show would get
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 seasons that like didn't click with fans or like didn't attract an audience before they were
right.
canceled. Now it's
Yeah,
like if they put out one season and it doesn't get the audience they're looking for, it's like we're not even going to allow them to try again. It's just that
yeah,
show is canceled. And it's
yes.
really frustrating. And then, when you tack all this like the AI stuff on top of that, it can be scary for sure.
I just
Uh,
don't see the economics, but I do feel like Netflix, to answer your question, I feel like Netflix is the better owner on this. It's the lesser of two evils, and it really changes Netflix from a tech company to an entertainment company. They
mhm.
have to have a relationship with theaters, for example. They've got to have second window runs. They've got to sell some of their properties to other partners. They've got to continue relationships on established content deals. So Netflix will own the company that's producing something for a competitor. They need to do that. They need to think about their video game business. But I
Yeah.
think it is the manifestation of Netflix becoming bigger. What that also opens the door to, and I was thinking about this too, like the consolidation wars have just begun. Begun the consolidation wars to have, like it's just going to get nuts. And I feel like, Apple is going to be in this mix soon. Like they already are a huge player, and we're probably going to be seeing Comcast and Disney. Like imagine if Comcast and Disney got together and said we want Nintendo. And that's not unimaginable to think. And a lot of the people that are running at and have been at Nintendo have been there for a long time, and they are probably thinking, okay, what's in it for our future? Like, what are we going to do? Yeah, and I was absolutely thinking like that trinity of Comcast, Apple, and Nintendo. They seem to be shades of each other in a lot of ways, and they all provide services that each other business isn't doing. Um, anyways, it opens the door to thoughts like that, where once we had all of this competitive infrastructure, suddenly it's one quadrillion valued company and another quadrillion valued company, and soon they're broadcasting to other planets and other solar systems, because it's like, okay, what do you like, how do you grow if you own the world, like where else are you going with this stuff?
And I forget what podcast I was listening to, but one of the hosts who was talking about this deal made the remark that like Netflix has $80 billion to spend on Warner Brothers, but not enough money that they can let us continue to share passwords.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Exactly.
it's wild to me that they're not valuing the games
I know.
portion of Warner Brothers, because not only has Netflix been trying to make headway, like serious headway, in the
Yeah.
gaming space in like the past like 5 or 6 years. Like
Yes.
they published Oxenfree 2. They have
Dude,
all
I
these
just
games.
downloaded Red Dead Redemption onto my iPhone through
Yeah.
Netflix just last
So
week. Yeah.
they're doing this stuff where they're offering subscribers access to these games through your Netflix subscription. They are
Yep.
actually actively funding and developing and publishing games under the Netflix banner. And
Yep.
Warner Brothers has like quite a few game studios, like NetherRealm, which puts out Mortal Kombat and Injustice.
Yes. Yes.
Rocksteady, which they did Suicide Squad most recently, but they have a lot of great games in the Batman Arkham series.
Yes.
TT Games does the Lego games.
Yep.
Avalanche just had a massive hit in Hogwarts Legacy a couple of years ago. Like, do you think that they actually are going to end up leveraging these, or do you think that this is like maybe, hey, we have
It
these things, we don't
it
plan
may
on
have
doing
been a
anything?
no, I think they will, and I mean they're not dumb over there. They're very successful, and they totally are a tech savvy business, and they are understanding the amount of money that video games make, the amount of money that video game subscriptions like Xbox Game Pass is making, and I have a feeling that some of the remarks about video games and their value may have been calculated and a little stealthy, because one of the things that they've already got is this Trojan horse app on uh, consoles, and what they aren't providing there are games. But
Hmm.
if they own games in a massive way like this, like console games, they might be another purveyor. It might be a ticket to Netflix as another subscription service value add on consoles with Warner Brothers titles, but also presumably partner titles as well, and be like a real competitor to Game Pass. I mean, Game Pass has been set up to be the Netflix of games. Netflix might be the Netflix of games,
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even
and this
think
might be
about
their
that
ticket
side
to it.
where
Yeah,
it's like, everybody who has an Xbox or a PlayStation probably has the Netflix app downloaded
exactly.
onto their system. So like,
Right.
and much in the way that you just open up the Netflix app on your phone or your iPad to
Yeah.
download these games through your subscription, I could see a world where like if the platform holders will allow it, because sometimes they don't like when you circumvent their
Well,
storefronts.
we're moving in that direction, though, Brian. That's
We
the thing
are.
that's going on, right? Like the EU has put up some really explicit kind of phrasing around this, and Apple's had to make some pretty big dramatic concessions. We've seen Apple and Epic in this ongoing legal battle about where they can sell and can't sell stuff. And I feel like Netflix is just biding their time, man. Like they can be the Amazon. We've been thinking of them as the subscription service to content, but they can be the Amazon to entertainment, like subscribe to anything that you want to do. Music is probably up. I mean, they're talking podcasts. That's all coming to Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting into sports. And I think this Warner Brothers deal is another on ramp to a lot of sporting events as well. They're going to have news if they want it, but it sounds like that might be something they diversify. Um, uh, yeah, the world is about to change in some freaking massive, massive, huge ways. Um, it's funny though that the Activision deal with Xbox was almost the same size as all of Warner Brothers, 100-year-old content company with all of those different, you know, verticals underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
HBO, you
Yeah.
know, CNN, all those game companies, all of that IP, all of that library that's going to be valuable forever. Singing in the Rain is something they own, you know, and Activision was sold to Xbox for almost the same amount of money. It's amazing to me, you
It
know?
is. I did see
Yeah.
a funny meme online that was like the HBO Max app. It just goes HBO Max to Max, back to HBO Max, and now just Netflix.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, glad we went on this journey with you, HBO Max. Uh,
Oh my God.
but hopefully the situation, works out soon, and whatever
Yeah.
merger or acquisition happens, works out for the best. But yeah, there is definitely a
It's
healthy dose of skepticism that I think we should all bring into any big acquisition or merger.
We are in the M&A period right now, though, man. Like the U.S. administration, just seems so ready to deal. As
Yeah.
long as they're a part of the equation somehow. And I don't think under another administration it would be so egregious. But who knows? I mean, Activision got bought by Microsoft, so that happened, and it is similar in the way that they were such a huge competitor and then they were swallowed up. It's similar that way. I
Mhm.
just don't think that Activision, you know, has the cultural cachet that Warner Brothers has crafted. I mean, Superman, Batman, Wonder, Flat, like the Harry Potter, like Lord of the Rings. It's insane how much stuff is under that umbrella, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is why I think that Paramount's valuation of Warner Brothers actually comes closer to what it probably actually is. I'm not,
Yeah,
a film industry analyst or anything like that I can actually point out that like, this is what this company is worth. But when you
yeah,
compare it like you did between Activision and Warner Brothers, I mean, you know that games are a higher grossing entertainment medium than films. But at
yeah,
the same time, like you said, there's a lot of institutional just
yes,
classics that are under the
yes,
Warner Brothers umbrella and IP and future facing stuff. Like DC itself is a
yeah.
huge product and it's just ramping up its cinematic universe under James Gunn. It's like that's kind of a futures bet as well.
Big time. It's very much, analogous to what Disney did with Star Wars and Marvel, but those were much smaller deals. But what's interesting too is when you look at Activision and you look at Warner Brothers needs to make more games based on their properties, and
Hmm.
Activision needs to make more movies and TV shows based on their properties. And and what might be the ingredient to that happening so that there is more cross culture pollination of intellectual property is AI, and I don't think it's like a button pressing. It's going to convert this thing to that, but it might speed up the process to building more value in these entities.
But then we're right back to, do we really need more entertainment at our fingertips?
We don't. We don't. But it feels like it's a numbers game. It's just like like honestly, like we don't. It's like they need to be making more customers. Like I feel like there's this ceiling on who's got time and interest and money to be able. They need to be making more customers, and I feel like the way to that is to give people more money and more free time. That's what these huge companies should be thinking about, you know. But it doesn't feel like that's what's going on. It feels like you know, there's so much greed, and they're just sort of twisting the screws on different people to see how tight it can go. You know,
these technological advancements, they're always sold as like, this is going to make your life so much better, but in actuality and in practice, it's often like, all right, well, you're just expected to be much more efficient now, and like you have to get more
make
done
more
with less time.
It's you versus robot. Go. Yeah.
Well, we've had a really great, optimistic conversation about the state of entertainment right now, but we're going to be a lot more positive in the next segment, and we are going to take our only break of this episode, and when we return, we are going to be breaking down the Game Awards 2025. We will be right back. We are back, and this week, Jeff Keighley hosted his annual Game Awards in Los Angeles. And though Nintendo once had a huge presence at the TGAs, it seems like that is really not the case anymore. So, Victor, we famously got our first look at Breath of the Wild gameplay at the Game Awards many years ago, but now it almost seems like, you know, that type of involvement from Nintendo was like a dream at this point. Why do you think this shift happened?
I think there's an ebb and flow to this stuff. I think that, you know, we didn't see a lot. We didn't see Wolverine from PlayStation. We didn't see anything on the new Halo from Xbox. I think that there are a lot of calculations on exactly how this stuff is served up, and everybody has got their own video polished product that they are always working on. And so there's always this sort of competing kind of edge on all of this stuff. We saw this also at E3, you know, where some hardware manufacturers would get some support from third-party companies here, but not over here. It's that same kind of thing. It's a dance that has to happen. And I don't think there's anything saying that next year's TGAs, you know, like Nintendo's going to hear from fans that they missed seeing them at the Game Awards, you know, and I was grateful that Donkey Kong Bonanza won for family. I was grateful that it was nominated in Game of the Year as well. But I think maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe if more Nintendo games had more prominent positions at the awards, like maybe art direction for Metroid Prime 4, but of course the awards are all timed so that some of the games that come out in December just aren't available. They're not, you know, looked at, which is really unfortunate as well. So I think that has a part of it too. It's a game, and you know, but that doesn't say that they won't come back. And I think that they will. I think everybody in the industry, you and myself included, big supporters of what Jeff is doing. And I think that everybody in this business also has a real understanding that this is a complicated thing that he puts together every year. And so there's bound to be some drop off from some places and some pickup from other places. And that's going to evolve on a continuous basis. Doesn't stay still.
I will say that, so over on the All Things Nintendo community Discord, Disco Stew, I have not checked the numbers here, but this sounds right. He said, the last time there was a Nintendo published game with any kind of announcement or trailer at the Game Awards was 2022 with the announcement of Bayonetta Origins, which was really more of a platinum announcement. Prior to that, it's 2020 with the announcement of Sephiroth in Smash Ultimate.
Right.
That is wild, because it used to be like you would get announcements from Nintendo almost at least one every year. And I mean, I truly think that it was because I think that Jeff had a great relationship with Reggie Fils-Aimé. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is probably because you still see Reggie at the awards. Like he still flies out to LA. At least all
Right.
the years I've run into him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still see him going to the awards. So it's not
Hey,
like, oh,
Doug
I'm not at
Bowser was up
Nintendo
on
anymore.
stage.
Yeah, that's true. He was up on stage. And, Eiji Aonuma and Hidemaru Fujibayashi were in attendance at 2023 for when Tears of the Kingdom was nominated for Game of the Year. So
Yeah.
it's not like Nintendo is like, screw those guys. We're not going to do anything with it. But I think that they've just become kind of more, I don't want to say controlling, but I think that's maybe the best word to say
Well,
about
they're
how they
video
are over
production
there.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have their own video production, and so does Xbox, and so does Nintendo or PlayStation. And honestly, we didn't really see. This could have been the suite for PlayStation to show off something that we don't know about in 2026 or something like that, and that didn't manifest, and neither did something from Xbox that we're not super surprised by. This was really a third party showcase, and in fact, Capcom I think was like running the
Oh,
show.
yeah. They were the
Capcom was
star.
all over this thing, yeah, big time.
Yeah. So
Uh,
not,
yeah, I'm not too shocked that there wasn't any big Nintendo reveals because honestly, like by I think February or something like that, we'll have a big Nintendo reveal event for stuff that we'll see at the beginning part of 2026, little tease of something for later in 2026. I think they're going to have another killer year. They've had an amazing year in 2025. What a launch year for Switch 2. It was great.
yeah, it was a fantastic launch year for Switch 2, and you may hear a little bit about that in subsequent episodes as we do kind of end of year stuff
For sure, yeah.
of this podcast. But going back to the Game Awards, it wasn't completely devoid of Nintendo's presence, as you had indicated. Donkey Kong
Yeah.
Bonanza won Best Family Game. It was nominated for Game of the Year. Best
Yeah.
Sports and Racing Game went to Mario Kart World, which I think
Yep.
some people may have been a little shocked at because there has been this kind of like negative swing back in the
That
community.
game is amazing.
I love Mario Kart World. I think that
It's an amazing game.
it's hard to stand up against Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just because there's
Mm-hmm.
so much content there, and it's like
Yeah.
just the perfect execution of the traditional Mario Kart formula. But that
Well, we
said,
think of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It was an excellent Switch game when it launched. It became an irrefutable juggernaut masterpiece over several years of continuous sales and successes. I think we're going to see that same thing with Mario Kart World. I think
I
this is
would
just
love
the
that.
beginning this year. And I think, I mean, why else would you make this huge open world? Nintendo has got some plans, and we're going to get some cool announcements and releases and discoveries all methodically planned out. Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U was a great game. And I think Mario Kart World on Switch 2 is a much better game than Mario
Mhm.
Kart 8 was on Wii U. It's just not as good as the full package of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is with all of its DLC and all of its extensions.
But I think it was kind of a little bit of a surprise to me, given that this was one of the stiffer years of racing game competition. Because
Right.
Sonic
Yeah.
Racing had a terrific entry with Sonic
Excellent
Racing
game. Yeah.
Crossworlds. Kirby
Yeah.
Air Riders was kind of this like black sheep that came out of nowhere, and it's headed up by Masahiro
Terrific
Sakurai,
game.
who is just
Yeah.
one of the most brilliant game designers of our time.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I was thinking like, oh, maybe this is the year that they give like Sonic a win over Mario, or this is the year that like, Kirby Air Riders came out of nowhere to take home this prize. But no, Mario Kart World, which again I like very much, but I was like, oh, maybe this is the time that they're a little bit vulnerable compared to some of the field.
Right. Yeah, and I think there are players out there that prefer Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and it's a great game, and it's crazy and it's a lot of fun. But I don't know, there's something about the breadth and scope in that Knockout Tour in
Knockout Tour is
Mario
great.
Kart World. Yeah, and it's also a game like I think Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I'm not even going to say that because they're just going to keep extending that too, and they're just going to keep adding new DLC and stuff. But because there's so much the stuff just flashing at you in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, there's an exhaustion element there.
Mhm.
But I think again they're just going to keep adding lots and lots of new pieces to kind of shake up the formula.
They've added so
But
much already.
and so much already. Mario Kart World, I think, there's a little more breadth in all of it, and there's still lots to discover and lots to explore, but there's also tons of intrinsic cool value in the core experience there. They're both going to get more, and that's the beginning too. Like that's the reality here too, is that they're at the beginning. They're like the platform has opened up, and they're both going to get loaded with lots of cool new content. I'm pretty sure. That's not
Absolutely.
confirmed by Nintendo, but I'm pretty sure.
I would be surprised. But then again, I was surprised that Mario Odyssey never really got any new, like, meaningful
Right.
DLC. We got the Luigi's, like, hide and seek, whatever, but, like,
Right. Yeah.
I was 100% certain that we were gonna get new kingdoms by way of DLC, and I thought we were gonna get
Right.
Isle
Yeah.
Delfino from Mario Sunshine the same way we got Peach's Castle in,
Yeah.
at the end of Odyssey. But
Good
going back
point.
to the Game Awards itself, the big winner. Speaking of, you mentioned Rayman had that Vive la Revolution or Vive la
Yeah.
France.
Yeah.
That was the Game Awards last night. Claire
Oh,
Obscur
I
and
know.
Expedition 33 took home Game of the Year, and almost every other award it was nominated for, which it was the most nominated game in Game Awards history. It had 13
Yeah.
nominations. It took home 9 of those nominations, which is
Wow.
wild.
Is that a record as well? 9
I
wins
believe
at
it
the
is
show?
I
That
am almost certain it is the winningest Game Awards game of all time.
It's deserved, out of the nominees. I'm a huge indie fan, and Indiana Jones, I think, is a better game,
Oh, I thought you
and
meant
it
indie
deserved.
games, like not Indiana
Oh,
Jones.
both. And you know what, though, Expedition 33 is an indie game, and it
Yeah.
won in that category quite rightly. And out of the nominations that it received, I think it deserved them because it was such an incredible story for the medium again. It really was a reminder that pure passion and ambition and a unified focus in one common direction with all of the artists involved to make it so is very successful. It's a very successful thing to do. And we as players recognize when games are made with that level of integrity. And that's exactly what was on exhibit there. We didn't know that when it was announced. It looks so weird and so random. It's like, who are these guys? What the hell is this game? I can't even
And
remember the title. And then
exactly,
it,
a name that was hard to
and then it
remember.
yeah, and then it comes out. It's like, oh, this is freaking a masterpiece. This is so beautiful. And like they built a full. That's why it's more than just a hobby, man. Like that isn't a hobby. That is like years of people's dreams, crystallized, manifested. And when you play it, you recognize that. It's so, yeah, I applaud that they won. I still think Indy got robbed. Indiana Jones got robbed. It was such a marvelous, marveless game. I gave it the best game of last year because it came out in 2024, but it's one of those December releases that always gets screwed.
Yeah, I think the only
Yeah.
time I've seen a game that came out in December get meaningful recognition at the Game Awards the next year was Smash Ultimate.
Right.
I think it might
Yeah.
have actually gotten a
Good pull.
nomination for Game of the Year that year,
Yeah.
even though
Has
it came out in
Cyberpunk
December.
ever gotten
Oh,
just
man.
promo?
Yeah, I think that was just promo and
Yeah,
stuff like
never won
that.
any, and that's one of the best games of all
I
time
mean,
at this point.
Cyberpunk at launch, it certainly was not one of the best games of all time.
No,
So now
no.
again, it's we mentioned No Man's Sky earlier. It's kind of that No
Yeah,
Man's Sky trajectory where it came out and it was
right.
massively disappointing in 2020 when it launched. And they
Yeah,
stuck with it, similar to, to No Man's Sky. And now
yeah.
it's like, one of the best games of the generation.
Irrefutable and an excellent Switch 2 game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Capcom, as we talked about, was the big star of
Yep.
the Game Awards this year. And we'll start with Pragmata, which we've
Yeah.
known about this game from Capcom for a while. We just didn't know it was coming to Switch 2. And thanks to
Yeah.
the Game Awards, we now know that. And the way this game works is you play as Hugh, who's kind of like a typical Space Marine looking character, kind of Dead Space vibes, because you're navigating this kind of abandoned lunar research station. But rather than it being like this solitary experience, you're accompanied by this cute little girl android named
Mm.
Diana, and you're traversing it. It's this third person shooter, and it very much is like, you're going around similar to like Isaac in Dead Space. You're finding like these inhabitants on this space station that are hostile towards you. But rather than just blowing them away, there's actually this hacking gameplay mechanic that's interweaved into combat. And when this hacking minigame pops up, you have to navigate pipes to kind of connect point A to point B. and you can, go out of your way to pick up items that give you like extra damage and everything in the combat. And then once you complete the mini game, you incapacitate the enemy, and then Hugh can take them down and destroy them. And like, I know they've done hands-on for this, but I haven't had a chance to play it. I don't know if
I
you've had
haven't
a
either.
chance to play it. Yeah,
No,
it looks
not yet.
fascinating though. It's one of those
Yeah.
ones where I haven't paid too much attention to, but like after watching the trailer last night and kind of diving into what this game even is, it does seem like it's a very cool concept.
It does look beautiful as well. And what I am so impressed by with Capcom is they have been able to pivot the bubbles in the game industry. Like these big changes about uh, console sales and stuff like that. Like they put the RE engine on Steam and have been able to do a lot of PC sales on their games. And then they're one of the first big partner publishers on Switch 2, taking full advantage of the hardware. Street Fighter 6 is absolutely
Great.
astounding on Nintendo Switch 2. Like your mouth just falls open when you're playing. It's like when I first saw it, I was like, this doesn't look any different to my eyes than what I remember this looking like on PlayStation 5. Now, I haven't done a pixel peep. I'm not Digital Foundry, but it's like, wow, this game looks incredible on TV and in handheld. And I feel like that's what we're going to see again and again. I think RE Requiem is going to look great on Switch 2. It's going to look great on every platform it's on, and I think Pragmata is going to look incredible as well.
Well, that's a perfect segue. So Pragmata comes out on Switch 2 April 24th, and then RE Requiem, which, speaking of Capcom, got to look at that, which is out on February 27th. And it was leaked via the PlayStation Store earlier this week. But in addition to Grace Ashcroft, who has been the star of every other trailer of RE Requiem to this point, we now know we'll also be able to play as Leon Kennedy, who they said that it's going to be approximately equal playtime between these characters, which is cool. Where do you come down on the Resident Evil series? Because I feel like there are kind of like the three eras, right? There's 1 through 3, there's 4 through 6, and then there's the first person entries like Biohazard Village and Requiem. Like, do you have a favorite era, or are you like, kind of equal love across?
I'm like in this modern era, and I would include the remakes as well of 2 and 3. I cannot believe it. Like 7, I still think is the most terrifying out of all of the Resident Evil games that I've played. RE4, I think, is a masterful action game, but it is almost a little too absurd. It almost takes a step away from the survival horror aspect of it. You're so OP, I feel, in that experience, which is fine. It's still super fun, and there's great creep and terror and dread in that, but it also feels like it's more like it's seeping into the experience rather than the abject horror that you feel when you're playing Resident Evil 7, especially in VR. And 8 got a little bit, goofy, but it was still really cool and really creepy. And so I don't know. I'm super excited. Like, I feel like Capcom is killing it with this franchise right now. Those remakes were amazing. 2 is terrifying and beautiful.
2 is
3
incredible.
was a bit short. Yeah, 2 was incredible. And 3 was a bit short, but still so fun and so satisfying and so beautiful. Out of all of those, I think 7 was the one that resonated. It was just so gross. It was just I felt like I was just, in first person, just like going through mud and blood and slime and grime and rats and, the swampy ooze of it all was just, ugh. Especially I played it in VR too, and I was streaming it, and and just like totally lost my. I was so scared, man. I was totally freaking screaming, but it was very good, and I'm really looking forward to what they do with 9.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really want to play these first person games. I played through like maybe the first third of Biohazard, Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
But the only real like Resident Evil game that I've played like multiple times through was 5, and that's because it came out while I was in college. It was a great co-op game, and I had roommates who also wanted to play with me, so we played through it like a couple times, and it was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
I know people. It has its detractors, right? Like, they're like, this is even more of an action game than 4 was.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to hit that sweet spot. It really is. That's why I think those remakes, really did that. They took away some of the cumbersome qualities. I
Mm-hmm.
always thought of them as pixel. You're moving a cursor around trying to find what you can interact with in the early days, even back
Yeah.
then when I reviewed them originally. And I didn't like tank controls. I was, once Mario 64 came out and any game tried to, like, you rotate a character, whether it was Tomb Raider or Resident Evil or whatever, you rotate a character to then move forward. I was like, what the hell is this? Have you not played Mario? Mario 64 shows you how to do it, like, no, you just sort of move in a direction and you can kind of tiptoe or you can run and sprint. And so anytime I was like struggling with the controls or feeling hemmed in by it, it removed immersion from me. But I understood the psychological qualities in Resident Evil and Silent Hill and stuff like that, like just the sounds and these beautifully ornate pre-rendered backgrounds and things like that were pretty damn cool. But once they got into the remake territory, oh yeah, man, they've just been crushing it.
Yeah, they've done a great
Yeah.
job with those. But Village, Biohazard, and Requiem are all coming to Switch 2 on
Yep.
the exact same day, which I don't know how I feel about that strategy in terms of like wanting to get players to play them. But
Yeah.
February 27th, all of those games are going to be available. All the first-person Resident Evil games are going to be available on Switch 2, including the brand new Requiem.
Yeah, I don't know about that strategy either, but what I would project back to you is, wouldn't you have liked 2 and 3 from Metroid on the same day as Metroid Prime 4?
I would have preferred them 2 months before so I could get through them before
Yes.
Metro. That's what, like, I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, they should have shadow dropped Biohazard today or yesterday or whenever, like, at the Game Awards. They should have been like,
Good point. Yes,
Biohazard
'cause it's
available
ready.
now.
Yeah.
Early January, you'll get Village, and then February 27th, when Requiem comes out across all platforms, you'll get it day and date then as well.
You know what? You send Capcom an email today, I will too, and we'll see what they say. That might be enough of a catalyst.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll retroactively change all their plans and go back and be like, oh, these two jamokes decided to
From different parts of North America.
Yeah,
We got them
exactly.
at the same, but they must be onto something.
So speaking of Capcom, we're already talking about them. So why not jump over to something that happened a little bit later in the show?
Yeah.
And that was the announcement of Mega Man Dual Override, which is a brand new 2D Mega Man game with, I would say, similar visuals as Mega Man 11, meaning it is a 2.5D game with modern graphics. And outside of that, we really don't know a whole lot about this game, but the name Dual Override does imply to me some sort of either co-op or dual protagonist.
Right. I was thinking maybe perspective as well. And I don't know about you, but I was expecting the camera to pivot and then suddenly we're in a 3D world with Mega Man, which would be wild. I loved the Plucky Squire, and I keep thinking that with IP that we know and love, you could do something pretty damn cool. Now, I don't know if that's in the works at all with this Mega Man game or anything like that, but I'm fired up, and I keep reading that Capcom is excited to make Mega Man vital for people, in much the same way that they were able to break through some ceilings with Monster Hunter and even Resident Evil, bringing Resident Evil back, and they want that same kind of fire around Mega Man again, which I am all for. I think that's going to be really, really damn cool.
I mean, they've also rehabilitated Street Fighter. Like, people forget that Street Fighter 5 was had a very rough launch,
right?
And then the team just kind of revamped Street Fighter 5, and then Street Fighter 6 was the game that the people who fixed Street Fighter 5 could build from the ground up. So
6 is so freaking crazy. I mean, it's such a good game.
I love it.
It's so it's so playable in so many. It's like 50 games. You go into the arcades and there's classic games that you could play in that game. It's so good. And then the Tekken had to respond, and Tekken 8 was so good as well. It's crazy. And when you look at Ace Combat 8, they're responding to Street Fighter, and they're giving us a freaking story in Ace Combat. It's so cool.
Well, Mega Man Dual Override is coming out 2027, so we do have quite a bit of time before we get our hands on this game.
That might be 3D. That's a long way away. I think there might be some kind of 3D piece to it.
That would be cool. I would be all
Yeah,
for that. I would love to see Mega Man return to 3D because it has been a long time. I know that they've been
yes,
riding kind of the wave of nostalgia with that franchise for a long time with either the Legacy collections or, 10 was very retro focused and then 11 was
totally.
also the 2D style, even though they modernized the visuals and everything. So I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
love to see them step out of like, hey, let's just keep putting out these Legacy collections and let's put something meaningful that not only just pays homage to the past, but evolves and brings it forward to the future because
Yeah.
it feels like it's due for some sort of big innovation in that franchise.
I think Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Generations kind of showed that you could do that. You could play with two perspectives and satisfy a wide swath of the audience out there. Not everybody loves those games for sure, but I don't know. I found them incredibly compelling, and you can do it. You can mix it up and keep people entertained. And the other thing is, like, if you're going to go 2D, why not make it pixel art? Like, why not just contract an awesome 2D house and let them go to town, like we saw with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound?
Yeah.
Like that would be great as well. Not that I'm knocking the 2D 2.5D art. It looked beautiful, but if you're going to evoke the retro vibe of Mega Man, why not just make it full pixel art?
I mean, the counter to that is this same year we got Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. I would even argue I like the visuals of Art of Vengeance more than Ragebound, and that was, I would say that in motion, Art of Vengeance is one of the most beautiful games I've played in a
Oh
long
yeah.
time.
What a
Screenshots
lucky
that
year
I know
for us, right?
we've
As
had a
life for
great year.
gamers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that have loved 2D like this. Those games are both so beautiful. And the fact that we get to like say I like Shinobi more than the 2D Ninja Gaiden. We get to have that discussion in 2025. That I feel so grateful that even exists. I did feel like Ragebound got a little bit overshadowed because of how many Ninja Gaiden games there were, let
yeah,
alone Ninja
three
games there
Ninja
were.
Gaiden games. Yeah,
Yeah, because Ragebound is amazing, but
it is
obviously 4 is
the
the
tent pole.
stakeholders would prefer. Yeah, 4 gets all the attention out there, and it got some deserved attention. It's excellent too. That's a great game,
Mhm.
but Ragebound is, I don't know, that holds a special place in my heart.
We talked about Warner Brothers in the first segment of this show. We got
Yep,
a Warner Brothers game up on stage at the Game Awards, and
yep,
that is Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight.
yeah,
Heroes and Villain trailer showing off more scenes from other Batman media. So we got a couple scenes from Arkham Asylum. Got at least one scene from The Dark Knight. I even saw scenes
yep.
from Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, The Dark Knight Rises, all kinds of stuff. I think the animated series, I spotted a thing happening in there.
Batman puts the kibosh on Robin throwing out a pun. No, we don't
Yes.
do that. Yeah,
So it comes out May 29th of next year. So not that far away, but I am always like, I would say passively interested in all these Lego games. I always have a good time with them when I play them, but for a
yeah.
long time, they were very samey, right? Like it's like, all right, if
Until
I play,
Skywalker Saga.
that is the pivot, right? That is the
Yeah,
time where they really were like, all right, we understand that a lot of our games, whether you're playing Lego Batman or you're playing Lego Marvel's Avengers, you're going to expect pretty much the same thing from these
yeah,
games.
yeah.
Skywalker Saga, that one really flipped it on its head. And I think
Mhm.
because of how good Skywalker Saga was and how different it was, that's why I have so much hope for this game, in addition to the fact that it is paying homage to all these games and movies and cartoons that
Yeah,
we have loved our entire lives, right? Like seeing them recreate scenes with Heath Ledger's Joker in Lego form, fully voiced. Obviously, it's not Heath Ledger doing it, but
yeah,
somebody who is embodying the spirit of that character. And then seeing
yeah,
like a person embodying the spirit of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze or Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy. It's
yeah,
it's like so cool to see these characters and these scenes recreated in what I assume is going to be one seamless story, like kind of revisiting the past of Batman. I think that is such a cool concept, and I would love to see them do more of that. Like,
yeah,
imagine if they did like their next big project after Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Imagine if we got Lego Avengers Infinity Saga, and you got to
Yeah.
play pivotal scenes all throughout, from Iron Man 1 all the way up to the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. That would be such a cool experience that would get me so excited. I would be, you know,
Oh yeah.
itching to jump into that experience. But how are you feeling about
I
Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight?
I am incredibly excited for this. I'm a huge Batman fan. I think this might have the opportunity to become the best-selling Batman game of all time. Like it's
Yeah.
really pulling together a lot of huge, cool pieces. They learned a hell of a lot working on Skywalker Saga. That might have been too much. I remember how many delays that game had.
Oh
That
yeah.
might have been biting off more than they could chew. But they pulled it off. They built something absolutely wonderful. And they've done incredible work with Lego Batman games in the past. It's not to diminish that, but even also, other Lego packages. Like I can remember the Spider-Man DLC from one of the Marvel Avengers pieces just being so satisfying. And the Batman, like giving us Adam West Batman and Lego Batman. And so they totally understand fan service. They totally get it. And I think the mechanics wise, they're absolutely taking the page from Skywalker Saga and making it a lot more fulfilling for just action adventure players, video game fans. It's not so much like they need to placate and cater to emerging game players and kids playing with their parents or whatever, which I think people still will. But there's also going to be a recognition that the people are going to come to this with some skill and some expectation. They want to feel a little bit of that Arkham vibe. I think we're going to get a little bit of that. I'm curious if some Rocksteady vets helped on this. I would
Hmm.
imagine that they probably did.
That would be
What's
cool.
cool for me is I worked on the making of Lego Batman the first time that TT ever did this. And I also worked on the making of Arkham Asylum.
Oh
And it was
wow.
right around the same time working with Warner Brothers on behind the scenes stuff for their games that went onto the discs. And knowing the excitement that those teams had, and the responsibility that they felt, and then to see them succeed and just keep growing and building on that. And this feels like a real, uh, I don't know, a pivot point for Batman in games, um, and maybe a little bit of, you know, I don't think an intentional one, but a bit of an apology to the Arkham fans that felt a bit bummed out around Suicide Squad. It's like a little bit
Mhm.
more of a return to that kind of play. So I think it's going to be great. And I don't mean to throw the actor under the bus because I think he's doing a fine job as our new Batman. But I think this would have been the awesome opportunity for Will Arnett to just sort of claim this role. That guy is an amazing actor. He's an amazing comedian. He was incredible in the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah.
He wants to be the character again. And I think Warner Brothers should have spent the money and just said, okay, you're our Batman in Lego form for a while. And if he's not in the game, or if he can't be the star of the game, maybe he's got a cameo or something like that. I recognize the time commitment and the cost and all of that stuff to get a guy like him into something like this. But whenever I saw Batman about to talk, I was in my head thinking, oh, it's Will Arnett. And then it's not. I wish it
Yeah.
was.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, Borderlands got Will Arnett as one of their main characters for
Yes,
Tiny Tina's Wonderland.
that's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was a stacked cast of voice actors, and
That was
Will
pretty fun.
Arnett. It was
Yeah.
fun. So it's
Yeah.
not
And he's a
unheard of.
player. He's a
Oh, is
player.
he?
I'm a Smartless fan, so I've listened to a lot of the podcasts, and he talks about his obsession. He would play with uh, the guy from the Office and the Tom Clancy show, John Krasinski or
John
whatever,
Krasinski.
Krasinski. They would like be on shoots and stuff or whatever, and they would rent Xboxes, or they'd bring their Xboxes to hotels and play games together for hours and hours. All the actors play, and they
A
all
lot of them
like the
because
games.
they have so much downtime. That's
They do.
so
Yes.
Tom Holland, when I interviewed him for the Uncharted movie, basically when he showed up for the first Spider-Man movie,
Yeah.
Homecoming,
Yeah.
that Sony gave him a PS4 in
Yeah.
his trailer, right? And
Yeah.
he was playing the Spider-Man games, obviously. But there was also, I think they had the Nathan Drake collection in
Oh,
there,
cool.
or no, it was Uncharted 4 that they had in there, he
Yeah.
told me, and he loved it so much while he was playing it on the set of Spider-Man: Homecoming that he went out and bought the Nathan Drake collection and played it from start to finish, and that's when he started lobbying to play Nathan Drake in the movie. So it's like
Crazy.
that type of stuff really does trickle down to a lot of these actors.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Anyways, I'm excited as hell for Lego Batman. It's one of the games I can't wait for in 2026. Really, it's like it's Grand Theft, obviously, and Wolverine, Lego
Wolverine, oh man.
Batman. Um, you know, I'm excited about Pragmata. I'm excited about this new Tomb Raider game that's being announced. Like
Saros
and Soros, yeah.
from
There's
Housemark.
great stuff.
There's a
I
lot of
mean,
good stuff coming up.
I feel like we had a lot of 8.5s and 9s. I think we're going to have a lot of 9s to 10s in 2026. That's how.
There's a lot of promising looking games coming in
Yeah.
the next year.
Yeah.
But speaking of high profile voice actors, we
Mhm.
got a
Oh,
short
one
trailer.
Lego
Oh,
thing.
go
One
for it.
Lego thing. James Bond. They should make a Lego James Bond game that takes us through all the movies.
That
That
would
would
be
be incredible.
incredible. And
All the vehicles. Yeah.
I swear to listeners, I did not send Victor the show notes ahead of time, but he segued perfectly into 007 First Light, which was the next thing in my outline. We got a short trailer of Bond
Yeah.
being interrogated by what we could surmise was the villain of
Yeah.
007 First Light. And then it was
Yeah.
it was none other than musician Lenny Kravitz, which I
Amazing.
never saw coming.
No.
And
It was
then he,
apparently it was leaked. I didn't see
oh,
that
I didn't
leak,
see
but
that
it
leak
was
either.
leaked. Yeah, and apparently it was leaked, and people were pissed because there was a different approach that they were going to take with the reveal. But because it was leaked, they went the way they did, which was still exciting and shocking. God, I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, neither was I. But he
Yeah,
came out on stage, presented an award, and so he plays a character named Balma,
yeah,
who is a massive black market dealer. And he's, they describe him as in the trailer, like the notes on YouTube, as charismatic and unpredictable. So I
right.
bet Lenny Kravitz can play that extremely well. He seems like a
Yeah,
charismatic, and I don't know how he is in person, but he could probably play unpredictable.
yeah.
But it comes out on March 27th, so you get 1 month with Resident Evil Requiem, and then you jump right into the world of James Bond.
That's awesome. And then Pragmata, and
Oh
then
my
Lego
gosh.
Batman. You know,
Just
man.
a month by
Yeah.
month by month.
We are cooking in
We are.
2026. We got some
We really are.
great stuff to get lost in. Yeah, no, I'm fired up for this Bond game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't had any hands-on time yet, so I don't know
Neither
how
have
it
I.
plays. The thing that I want to see from the experience, I want it to feel super actiony, arcadey. Like I want it to feel very fun on the thumbsticks. I don't want to be struggling with, any cursor stuff that pops up that's sort of pointing me in one direction. Like I want it to just feel, I want it to have that flow, So I don't want it to feel quite like Hitman, which is a lot more methodical and a lot more almost tactical in the way that you come across all of your obstacles. And I love the Hitman games. They're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I want it to flow effortlessly as I'm playing Bond. And I also want, to feel the sense of humor and the sense of cheekiness of the character a bit too. Bond is also Craig played him a little bit differently, but there's also a little bit of a not a winking at the camera, but a looking back, an acknowledgement of how absurd everything is. But he's got it, and I feel like I want to feel a little bit of that, even though he's a young guy and he's just starting out.
I think that
I'm
gives him
excited, man.
more license to lean more into that, because he's
Yeah,
not the fully refined gentleman that we know
right.
some of the Bonds to be. Obviously, there's some other problematic stuff that is not so gentlemanly that we've seen in some of the older movies. But this is a younger Bond that we are probably, I would say, if anything, he might be less serious than other
Yeah,
Bonds, just because this is like his
very
origin story.
cocky. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So that brings us to what maybe was the most delightful announcement of the night, which is a Switch 2 exclusive, and it is called Orbitals, and
Yeah.
it is a
I'm
game from
glad you're
Kepler
talking about
Interactive.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the art style borrows from like 80s and 90s anime, and it's a co-op space adventure. You play
This
as
looks
two
so good.
characters named Maki and Omura, who are space explorers, and their home station is falling apart. Then it gets
Yep.
trapped in this cosmic storm, and they're searching through space to try to find somebody to help them. And it's coming out sometimes in 2026 and exclusive to Switch 2. And I mean, I'm assuming based on your reaction, you were as delighted as the rest of the internet was for
Oh,
this one.
bro, it looks beautiful. I love the design. Honestly, huge kudos to Hazelight for like cracking open this idea. They didn't start the co-op stuff at
Mhm.
all, but they just really legitimized that people can think this way, because there's that other one, Out of Words, which is that stop motion game, which presumably will hit Nintendo as well. But yeah, Orbitals looks gorgeous and thoughtful and well crafted with love. uh I can't wait to play that with my daughter, man. Like I look at that and I'm like, oh my God, I want to play that right now. And I don't know. It just looks like so much fun. I used to watch G-Force back in the day, and it kind of reminds me of that aesthetic, that era. I'm not a huge anime guy these days. I just play too many games to kind of pay attention to all that. But God, it looks so good. I'm
It
so excited
does.
for Orbitals.
Yeah, that looks like a blast. I just need to find somebody who can play it with me because that's why I
Yeah.
haven't played Split Fiction or It Takes Two.
I got you, brother.
All
You
right.
send me say you got my email. Shoot. I'm reviewing stuff around the same time. I love the co-op stuff. It's a lot of fun. I just played that Lego Voyager.
Oh, nice.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Lego, and that was beautiful as well. That was such a very cool game. I played that with my daughter, and I streamed it with one of the viewers that is a huge part of our community. John Yomtop is his name, and God, yeah, you're right though. Like one of the things about modern gaming is this isolation that we're all in, and it's really like when you see the analog 3D coming out and you talk about the N64 days and stuff where there was 4 controller ports in the front of the screen, and they were just all about sitting down with a bud and playing something cooperatively or
Hmm.
competitively. And I think we're missing that. We're missing that human interaction a little bit,
It's harder
and
to
that's why these
coordinate.
co-op games are so important.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, Victor, the last two things that I want to talk about are
Hmm.
actually movies. So before we get to that, were there any other games, Nintendo or otherwise, that you just wanted to shout out quickly? I know that the two that I want to talk about are the Star Wars games that we got, which are Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic and
Right.
Star Wars Galactic Racer. So Fate of the Old
Yeah.
Republic is kind of a successor to the Knights of the Old Republic games from a studio led by Casey Hudson, who was a
Yeah.
director on the original series. He also is a director on Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Honestly, that
institutional
was
knowledge.
that piece of news was the most exciting thing from the whole show.
Yeah,
And the foresight to have the camera ready to go to show us Casey Hudson and his reaction too. That was a beautiful freaking moment. That was the highlight of the Game Awards.
it was
Absolutely
fantastic.
wonderful. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that the Evanescence performance has something to say about the highlight of the game. No, that was a very cool moment. I agree with you. But Evanescence, it was cool to see them on stage rocking out.
Yeah.
My coworker Wes LeBlanc put out a post saying that might have been the first breakdown in Game Awards history in terms of like
Oh,
musical breakdown. But I also Star Wars Galactic Racer.
yeah.
It's a spiritual successor to Star Wars Episode One Racer, which it's a pod racing game, which that's
Yeah.
incredible. Like a pod racing game with 4K visuals and incredible modern technology. Like sign me up for that. Like imagine this. The sense of speed that you can
Yeah.
achieve in
Yeah.
modern gameplay as compared to
Yeah.
like the N64 title that we had back in the
Who,
day.
who's making it?
That's a good question. I had a thing up here, and then I
I
was
hope it's
checking.
Wipeout vets, because
Ooh,
like I still haven't seen an anti gravity racer, and there's been some other attempts. I haven't seen anything that's come close to the Wipeout Fusion, like the last Wipeout game that PlayStation published. It's still incredible, and you can play that in VR as well. So I hope it's that kind of pedigree on this. I don't know.
Fuse is the studio,
Fuse?
which I'm not. Let's see. A new favorite hobby. Da, da, da. Okay. Oh, so okay. Key leaders at Fuse spent time at Criterion.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Okay. So the burnout peeps.
So yeah, in addition to great work on on our projects, they have industry leaders in some of the most beloved racing franchises in Need for Speed and Burnout. They also
Wicked.
worked on Star Wars Battlefront 2's Starfighter mode. So they have
Oh, great.
experience with racing and Star Wars. So that gives me
Excellent.
a lot more confidence.
Big time. Me too. Yeah, I'm super psyched about those. Talking about Mass Effect, I think Exodus, we got a really good
Yeah.
sense of the gameplay. That really has a beautiful vibe of Mass Effect. I was very impressed by that. Super psyched on the new Tomb Raider games from Crystal Dynamics. We're getting two. We're getting a reimagining of the first one. Called Catalyst, and then we're getting something brand new on the second one, which I forget the name of the second one. That looks like a lot of fun. Control Resonant, I
Oh
can't wait
yeah.
for that. Loved Control when it came out. It was one of the best of that year for sure. And then there's others, but the one that stood out for me, well, there's two. Bradley the Badger looks
Hmm.
like an insane liftoff on Conker's Bad Fur Day in a way. Maybe not as M-rated, but like as fourth wall breaking and filled with lots of clever illusions and references and influences, and just looks like a lot of fun. And then Coven of the Chicken Foot, which looks
Oh yeah.
so unique and so fresh and so I don't know, thoughtful and crafted with love. Like you could play as a grandmother and a monster, and trying to solve puzzles together. It just looks so different and yeah, very fired up about that one too. There was so much good stuff.
A Gang of Dragon, which is from the
Oh
creator of the
yeah,
Yakuza
yeah,
series.
that looked great.
It's his
Yeah.
first like indie venture, not indie in the sense that he doesn't have a main publisher. Because I think it's under NetEase is who's
Mm,
publishing that game. But it's separate from Sega and Atlas and RGG. This is his first game after that, and it
yeah,
looks very much the part. This looks like, hey, I'm going to continue making these games, but without the constraints that probably come with a long running franchise like the Yakuza / Like a Dragon franchise.
yeah,
Saros, I mentioned that already. Like, if you liked
yeah,
Returnal, this looks like it's right up that alley from the same people. And Ace Combat 8. I have
yeah. I
never
was
been
just
like a
gonna
big
say,
Ace Combat fan. Like, I've never really given the franchise probably a fair shake, but that looks incredible.
yeah, yeah.
So
They're clearly, they've always been influenced by Top Gun, but now we get to play the movie chunk of Top Gun as well, or we
yeah.
get to watch it at least. Their interpretation of something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, fired up.
so the last two things, as I mentioned, are movies. And the first one is the Street Fighter movie. So we got
Hmm.
our first trailer, which was just 45 seconds of footage. And dare I say, it looks like it's a lot of fun. Like
Yeah,
we've gotten a
yeah,
couple of Street Fighter movies of not the greatest quality, but at least that first one with Samuel L. Jackson, Jean Claude Van Damme. I don't know
yeah,
why I confused those two. And Raul Julia was also incredible in that movie, but obviously extremely camp,
yeah,
different era in video game
yeah,
filmmaking. And then we got The Legend of Chun-Li, like like a decade ago, a little bit over a decade ago, and that was by all indications a train wreck of a movie, and
yeah,
did not spawn the series that it hoped it would spawn. This looks like a lot of fun, and like the action looks great. It looks like it's not taking itself too seriously. All the
yeah. It's camp
people,
again.
yeah, it's camp again, and they're making the characters look just like their game counterparts. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like Jean-Claude Van Damme is just gonna be like, oh, that's Jean-Claude Van Damme cosplaying as Guile. It's like, no,
Yes.
Cody Rhodes from WWE, who plays Guile, looks like Guile. 50
Yeah.
Cent, who plays Balrog, looks like Balrog. They even gave him the weird like widow's peak that Balrog has. Jason Momoa as Blanca, David Dasmalchian as M. Bison, which I still can't see it. But
No.
I mean, he's a great actor. He's a great character actor, so I could see it in that regard. But like, that was a pull from left field that I'm gonna have to wait and see how, because that reminds me of like the reaction that a lot of people had when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker, and it
Yeah.
was like, what the heck are they doing? This pretty boy is gonna play the Joker, and then it ended up being
Yeah.
amazing. That's kind of
Right.
how I feel about David Dasmalchian, which like he's kind of always been like a little bit of this quirkiness to all of his performances. Like, we see him as Polka Dot Man in James Gunn's Suicide Squad. And you're like, really? That's M. Bison? And
Yeah.
but then if you've seen the latest season of Dexter, where he plays one of the serial killers that Dexter is pursuing and interacting with, he can bring a menacing some menacing chops to his performances. So
He's very versatile, and what's cool about Desmelchian is that he's a hyper fan of this stuff too. Like he
Yeah.
writes comics and he's in the nerd sphere anyway, you know. And I think that's the difference this time too. Like before, it was kind of a laugh at the idea of how absurd it is to take a video game property and turn it into a movie. And this time, it's sort of a laugh with all of us. We are in on the joke together. We're all hyper fans. This isn't a money play. This is like an inevitability, and let's have a good time with it, you know? And Mortal Kombat, I think, is going in a similar direction, but the violence of that series sort of earths it in a seriousness that it can't avoid. Like you can't rip people's spines out and then be kind of goofy. You know, there's
Yeah.
some goofiness attached to it, but there needs to be a set of stakes that is really high. And I did
Well,
like the shout out from the stage around Mortal Kombat. That
yeah,
was
that
pretty
was
cheeky and pretty
hilarious.
funny.
But there is some truth to that. And like, even
Yeah.
though I would say Mortal Kombat has always had a more serious tone,
Hmm.
every time I've talked to the people involved with creating the fatalities, I wrote a feature a while back about like how NetherRealm approaches designing fatalities. And Ed Boon has always said, like, we know that we've gone too far if when something happens, the room doesn't burst out in laughter. Instead,
Yeah.
we kind of cringe. That's how we know we've gone too far. So they're
Yeah.
having the time of their lives, and they're laughing and through like these play tests and these meetings and pitch meetings and everything. So they are, even though it's hyper violent in a hilarious way often. Like,
Yeah.
like what is that fatality where like Cassie Cage in, I think it was Mortal Kombat 11, like shoots somebody in the head and then takes her gum out and plugs the hole with her chewed gum. And it's like, okay, that's obviously not trying to be super serious.
Yeah.
But the
No,
rest
no,
of
there's always a sense of humor with Mortal Kombat, but this Street Fighter movie looks amazing. But you just brought something back to mind, which gets us back into games here for a second. But talking about taking things too far, that Divinity trailer,
oh my
that
God.
was disturbing as hell. I could not
Yeah.
believe what we were watching with that. But
Oh,
I mean, Larian knows how to make an incredible game, so I think that one upped the gory stuff I've seen in a trailer to a whole other level. That was just insane. It was so
yeah.
gross.
It was a little far for my taste, honestly. And
Yeah.
I don't get like kind of turned off by that stuff pretty easily, but like it was like, oh, this is kind of hard to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, that was unbelievable.
So
But
the
Street Fighter is going to not be that. Street Fighter is going to be
no.
kind of goofy and silly, enjoyable fun. Hopefully, it's also a good movie. You know, hopefully it's not just gags a lot. You know, slapping all the time. Hopefully, there's actually some fun meat to it. You know,
Yeah, and it comes out October 16th, 2026. So next year is going to be a big year for video game movies. We talked about Mortal Kombat that got delayed into
right?
2026,
Right?
or Mortal Kombat 2. Street Fighter is October 2026. And then the final thing that I want to talk about at the Game Awards is the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which
Yeah.
is coming out in April 2026. And this is not even talking about the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff, because we've gotten Supergirl trailer
Yeah.
in the last
Yeah.
24 hours. We've
Yeah.
gotten, we're on trailer watch for Avengers Doomsday. Before
Yes.
that, we're going to have new seasons of Daredevil. We're going to have a Punisher special presentation on Disney Plus. We're going to
Spider
have
Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah, a brand
Yeah.
new day. Like, this is going to be a huge year
Yeah.
for like nerd movies and nerd TV
Dune
shows.
3 next
Dune
year as
3.
well, right?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
What
we're
a
in, man.
year.
I
Yeah.
know. And then in the middle of all that, the atom bomb of Grand Theft Auto
Oh
6.
my gosh. And all these other things like we've talked about, like
Yeah.
Wolverine and other like
Yeah.
nerd crossover. Yeah. So
Yes.
Super Mario Galaxy movie, we got a new
Yeah.
extended scene
Hey,
featuring
let's to the viewers and the everybody listening, let's make a promise to ourselves to leave our cocoons every once in a while, to get outside and see real human beings and get some sunlight on our faces. Okay? Let's not just be in our entertainment cocoon all that it's going to be hard, but let's let also the sunlight of 2026 in a little bit too.
it is going to be a monumental task to pull me away from screens next
I
year, I
know.
think.
I know.
But yeah, we got a new scene or a new extended version of the scene that we saw in the first Mario Galaxy trailer, Mario and Luigi
Yep.
fighting Bowser Jr. As a reminder, Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, all returning. And this one adds Brie Larson as Rosalina and Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. What is
Yeah.
your hype level for the Mario Galaxy movie?
Oh, it's huge. And it honestly has very little to do with the actors involved. No offense to any of them. They're all solid. I'm really happy that Brie Larson got a dream realized. I think that's awesome.
Fantastic
Uh,
casting.
yeah, and Rosalina's such a cool character. I I can't wait. And I was so filled with joy with the first Super Mario Brothers movie. I was in awe of it, very much like the first Sonic the Hedgehog film. It's like, oh my God, like people that really care made this, people that really don't want to disappoint the millions of us that adore these universes made this. And I felt very cared for. And it was not especially ambitious in terms of its narrative or where it was going, but I didn't care. I just felt so joyful watching it, and I'm feeling the same kind of vibe off of Super Mario Galaxy. And obviously, what this kind of introduces is the potential for the multiverse in the Mario space,
Yeah.
and the propensity for the filmmakers to give us cameos of all kinds of other Nintendo acknowledgments, and I'm excited for that. But even on top of that, I'm more excited about what has to be in the works is a Super Mario Galaxy 3 for Nintendo Switch 2,
Oh my
which I
gosh.
I got to be thinking that's I mean, it's maybe too much of a straight line for Nintendo, but it feels like what are they doing here?
Yeah.
Like when they
Always
were
the most
dropping all the Donkey
unpredictable.
Kong games and then, oh yeah, here's Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, it feels like this is what's going to happen.
God, that would make so many people happy.
Yeah.
But Mario Galaxy movie comes out April 3rd, 2026. Maybe we get a Rosalina game because it seems like
Oh,
she
that'd be
is being
great.
positioned like just a
Yeah.
Rosalina focused game. Because you think about what happened after Mario Brothers movie, like the first one, we
Yep.
got Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. We
Yep.
got Princess Peach Showtime. We got
Great
Mario
game.
versus Donkey Kong. We got
Great
Luigi's
game.
Mansion 2 HD. So it was like they
Right.
were really capitalizing. Toad didn't really have a game they could put out there because they already put Captain Toad Treasure Tracker
That's a
on.
great game, man.
It's
Oh
so
my
good,
God.
so
Yeah,
underappreciated.
I know.
And so they really capitalized on the ensemble cast of the characters that they have with the subsequent releases after that game made over a billion, or that movie made over $1 billion at the box office. I
Yeah.
could see them doing a similar thing with this if this is anywhere near as successful. Like, all right, we've got these other characters. We got Bowser Jr. out there. We've got Rosalina now added to the cast. Let's really just double down and make games that really hammer home how popular these characters are now, even more so than they were before.
Yeah, yeah. Did you get
So
the Rosalina storybook?
I did not. No, I've got
I
so much stuff and I have less space than I've ever had in my life.
I
So I have to really
know.
cut back on some of this physical stuff that I'm collecting.
I hear you. I did get it. My daughter's too old to kind of like story time read it, but it's very cute. But the other thing we didn't talk about in the news is the Virtual Boy
Oh, yeah.
pre-orders went live. Did you get one of those? Did you pick up the
I
Virtual Boy
didn't.
for Nintendo Switch 2? It's apparently, I mean, I don't know if it's selling well now, but it didn't sell out in the first day, which is kind of a new thing. And it's kind of like a sign of how it didn't sell out the first time it came out.
Yeah,
I
well, it's
did
one of
pick
those
one up
things.
though.
It's one of those things where it's like they're asking you to pay $100 if you want like the actual experience. And what
Yeah.
does that get you? That gets you access to the worst library in Nintendo history. And it's a novelty for sure, but
Yeah,
it's like this is undisputably the worst game console or whatever it is that Nintendo has ever produced.
I
And they're
know.
like, "Hey, you need to have this ugly thing sitting around your house," which it's cool if it's the original one. Like I used to have the original Virtual Boy sitting on my desk at Game Informer back when we had physical office.
Yeah.
And it was just a cool conversation piece. This is just going to be like, all right, yeah, this is just like
A
a
tchotchke.
peripheral, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't want
Yeah.
that sitting around my house. And then also it's $100 to get access to this thing.
Yeah.
My idea is that this is them testing the waters for an eventual second screen peripheral that will allow them to port over DS, 3DS, and
Yeah.
Wii U experiences over to the Switch 2. But
I've
they're
been
going to see
saying
how
that
this works
since
first.
we had the two USB slots on the Switch 2 when that was revealed, and I really hope that they do that. And it is a huge flex on Nintendo's part. Like if this does very well, the company can say, "Yep, we can pretty much make anything."
Yeah. Turns out it's not the
I
DS that prints money like the old meme said. It's just Nintendo prints money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Especially this day and
Well,
age. They had the Wii U, and that was about the only thing they've put out in recent memory that was a substantial flop. Like Labo, I guess you could say was a flop, but like it wasn't as big of an investment as the Wii U. The Wii
no.
U is really Nintendo's only time where they truly tripped and fell on their face.
Oh, that the branding on that. I mean, that's why I'm so glad that they just stuck with Switch 2. Imagine if they tried to call this something else and
Like
how
new Nintendo
confusing it would have been.
Switch or Super
Yes.
Switch, as a lot of people were positing. I think Super Switch
Yeah,
would have come back to bite them.
me too, because the Super Nintendo did not do as well as the NES, and it's a way better console,
Yeah,
and it's because people already had their Nintendo. That branding is so freaking important. PlayStation got it right, man.
they did.
They didn't nail it every single generation right out of the gate, but they knew it was a very easy way to push people to something new. Even when they did try something different with the Vita, that didn't work out for them. If they had called that a PSP2, that would have been a more successful product. Anyways,
Yeah. I mean, look
that's
no
another
further
podcast.
than Xbox, right? Like
It- that
Xbox
is the dumbest
Xbox
amount of
360,
branding ever. It's so
Xbox
stupid.
One,
Yeah.
which made no sense. Even their
No.
justification of like, oh, it's an all-in-one entertainment console. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then
Yes.
going from the Xbox, they had the Xbox One X, and then they had the Xbox Series X. And it's like, what are
Yeah.
you guys doing? It reminds me
I
of
know.
Lords of the Fallen, which is another Game Awards thing, where
Right.
it's like, all right, we had
2.5. Yeah.
Lords of the Fallen 2.5 announced alongside Lords of the Fallen 2, but Lords of the Fallen 2.5 is for Lords of the Fallen, which is actually the second Lords of the Fallen game. Lords of the Fallen 2, which is actually the third Lords of the Fallen game, doesn't come out until next year. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, because
And
there
I'm
are
gonna
two games
ignore
called
all of
Lords of
them.
the Fallen.
Yeah.
There was Lords of the Fallen, what was it, 2015 or 2014 that came out? And then they
Yeah.
just rebooted it without changing the name. And it's just Lords of the
No.
Fallen that came out, 2 years ago? And
You're
then,
just
yeah,
whenever you
it's so
do that,
confusing.
you're refuting and killing the value in that first time, And
Mhm.
Xbox is a brand, it's so tied to the 90s, it's so tied to like 90s transitional to that's the extreme kind of vibe on everything, that's when the X games were huge and all of that stuff. So it's tied to a specific thing. So the fact that they could keep the Xbox brand going and going and going, but then they tarnish it by all of these weird external decisions and extraneous decisions. It should have been Xbox 1, 2, 3, 4, and people would have been right on board. They would have been clear with that.
But no, the Xbox One was their third console, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah. And even Nintendo, I feel like they called it the Super Nintendo, and then the Nintendo 64, and Nintendo 64 didn't do as well as Super Nintendo. If they had just called it the Nintendo Entertainment System 1, Nintendo Entertainment System 2, Nintendo Entertainment System 3, we'd be up to the 6th or 7th right now. But I think there would have been this like, oh, it's time to upgrade kind of vibe on everybody. But people dip in and out based on market conditions.
Well, I'm sure you
It
remember
wouldn't
in
have
the
been so. Pardon me?
I was gonna say, I'm sure you remember in the early 90s, people thought that it was a scam that
Yeah.
Nintendo was requiring them to upgrade to a new system in order to access new games, and then the old games don't work on. You can find old news reports of
Yes.
parents being outraged in Christmas of 1991 that
Yeah.
Nintendo wants them to buy a new console after the NES. They're like, no, this
Of
NES
course.
should just play every video game forever, not
Yeah.
understanding that there are technical differences between them and that the SNES can do things way beyond what the NES was capable of.
And if you put a number 2 on it, everybody gets it. It's like, oh, I mean, we complain about that with PlayStation. Like the PS5 should be backwards compatible all the way to PS1 for sure. It should accept all your discs. But the fact that it has a number on the end of it, it sort of clues you in like, oh, I guess it's time to get a new thing. It's,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyways,
So, Victor,
that's a topic for another day.
I mean, we tackled it pretty well today, I think.
Yeah.
But how did you feel overall about the Game Awards? Give me a letter grade for how well this year's show came together.
It was a wonderful show in terms of getting me excited about the future of the business. I always feel a little shortchanged on the amount of developer time that we get, and I think that there's a rush through the awards themselves, and some interesting choices on what gets stage time. Um, it's a big award show, and it does a lot to kind of hit all the quadrants. You know what? I think that my biggest takeaway is that it's time for non-endemic partners to step up and pay the exorbitant prices for advertising to put their ads in the spots. I think it's time for the game industry and the game awards to grow up out of this. We need to put video game ads into our video game trailer loaded show, so
Mm-hmm.
that there is this confusion of, what am I watching? Just an ad for something that's out right now, or am I watching something that's coming? And I'm not a fan of free to play. I'm really opposed to it. I don't like that the industry moves so heavily in that direction to kind of devalue the onboarding price for things. I think it's really done a number on people's awareness of how games get paid for and how much they cost and the value of things. And there was a lot of free to play advertisement in there, and none of those games will win awards. They will not be talked about outside of the sphere of the users that are already in those universes. And I'm not throwing shade at the work involved, because clearly there's some good looking, heavily invested in good stuff in those games. I just don't like the economics of those things.
Yeah.
But all that says to me is that it's time for car companies and movie companies and companies that see a trend line around game consumers to jump in and pay that $1,000,000 for a 2-minute piece or whatever, and make those the ads, so that there's more difference between when we're jumping from world premieres into spots. And I think that is going to make the show better, and it's going to appeal to more people. But I also think that this might have been the most, I don't know, it was a really big entertainment rich experience. The fact that Jeff had like a whole like scene with Miss Piggy a couple of times, but like they were going back and
It's
forth,
bits.
and
Yeah.
they had bits, and I think the show needs to grow more in that direction. Um, and the musical numbers can be enriched a little bit, but it's already delivering so much quality stuff. Like, it is a massive level up on where the awards at this scale were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And Jeff's doing a great job, and it's a lot to navigate. There's
Yeah.
a lot of and the industry's in a really weird upheaval space right now, and AI is a huge threat, and the global politics have infected everything. And in the midst of it all, there's so much joy in our video game entertainment, and I think that this show understands it and delivered it. They synthesized it and put it into this nutso show that I think if you're not in the game space, you were just watching it like, what the hell is happening here? It's so many
Well,
different disparate pieces. Why is Lenny Kravitz in the middle of this thing?
Jeffrey
So,
Wright and his son came out. Yeah.
yeah, I
There's a
know.
lot of crazy stuff happening. And I
Yeah.
will say, like, to kind of put a bow on this, you see a lot of cynicism about the show on social media.
Yep.
And I understand what, like, the criticism about it. I absolutely understand. I've criticized Jeff, both for his lack of acknowledgement of the labor problems that are happening in the industry, and like
Yeah.
the rampant greed that we've seen in recent years from a lot of these companies, but also for how, it is a trailer show first and foremost and an award show second, and yet it's called the Game Awards, but we're rushing rushing through so many awards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it feels weird and dissonant in that regard of like, all right, let's give 3 or 4 minutes to this game to do a world premiere, and then in the span of 1 minute, let's rush through 3 award categories. And it's like,
Yeah.
that feels a little not great, and not even bringing the developers up on stage. But
No.
that said, having talked to him on multiple occasions, he cares a lot about this work and this industry. And he has a very difficult balancing act that he does need to have, because if you're just doing awards straightforward, right? You're just gonna, hey, this group is gonna come up, we're gonna present, they're gonna say, all right, the winner is this, we're gonna usher them off, we're gonna have like maybe a 2-minute monologue from the host, and then another award category, and that's the entire show, maybe one musical performance, maybe one bit. If there's no trailers or anything, you're not getting an audience that rivals that of the Super Bowl, right? You are getting an audience that is substantially smaller, which is unfortunate because it is great to see these developers recognized at places like the Golden Joysticks, at places like the GDC Awards, where at Dice Awards, where it is very much we are going to play a straight award show. We're going to have charming and charismatic hosts. Like, they do a great job at the Dice Awards in particular, getting amazing hosts for that awards. But there's a reason that it doesn't have this, millions, hundreds of millions of viewers over the course of the night that the Game Awards gets. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because Jeff gets all these world premieres and people are tuning in to see what the future of, what is
The
either their
medium is.
passing interest, their hobby, or their lifestyle is going to
Yeah.
be. And that's why it gets the viewership. So Jeff has to balance that with the expectations of satisfying these hundreds of millions of viewers that are tuning in, but also recognizing the best and brightest of the industry over the course of 3, which, they feel like long hours when you spell them out. But when you get that run of show down on paper, it's like, oh my God, 3 hours goes by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it
So
does. As
it's a
we
monumental task.
as we are almost pointing out in this conversation,
Yeah.
just wrapping up the awards can go by super quick. Big time.
Exactly. But yeah, so I don't envy the task that Jeff has in putting together a show that is a concise 3 hours with
Mm-hmm.
so many moving pieces, and also trying to balance the giving awards and allowing developers to have their time in the
Yeah.
spotlight
Yeah.
against what I would argue the vast majority of people tuning into the Game Awards are tuning in to do.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest issue is the advertisements, which, now we know because there's a lot of reporting on it, the amount of money that the show demands, and presumably costs, and all the issues. Like, you got to imagine every expense to have a world-class celebrity like Lenny Kravitz appear on stage. Like, it's not, I don't know if he's paid or whatever, but just the comfort costs to, like, that dude is just not going to wait in a bathroom,
Yeah,
and
he
then
has a
pop up on
rider.
stage, right? Yeah, like there's and there's like that's a lot of expense, to get him from wherever he is into the room and then up on stage, and he comes away with a good experience on that, because whatever he's got to say about that is going to ripple out into this social sphere that he knows. And if people are talking smack about the way that they're treated at these things, you're not getting access to whoever you want in the following year. So there's a lot of sophisticated behind the scenes costs involved, even if it's not just upfront paying people to be there or whatever, that I don't know if everybody kind of considers around that day. Plus the union costs in Los Angeles, like to pay for the space and to pay for every single light is hung by somebody that is experienced and represented, and it's not an R gang. Let's put on a show and everybody will tune in. Like, it's done in the heart of the most sophisticated communication city on planet Earth, with some real expectations. It's expensive, and he's pulling it off. And the other thing that I really liked about the show last night too was we got to see it in Jeff's heart a little bit more. Like, we
Mhm.
got to learn about his father passing away, and you could see it in his face that there's a weight that he's carrying, his personal weight, and also the weight of the entire industry in its own struggles right now. Trying to convey that. So I do think that the biggest issue that the show faces is that the advertisements look like the show, and that needs
Yeah.
to change. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
overall, I enjoy this all the time. Like, people always would like dread like other peers in the industry. They
Hmm.
would be so down on, oh, it's E3 week, and it's like that's Christmas morning for me. Like, I
Yeah.
loved
Yeah,
E3. I
dude,
love
dude.
SGF. I
Yeah, all
love
those
the Game
complaints.
Awards.
Like, I heard a lot of that stuff too around the launch of G4 as a TV network, and I would hear from people that were established journalists, and they'd be bitching and moaning about all that stuff, and I would just say to them, look, if this fails, it's not good for the business.
Mhm.
It really is not. It is a sign of bad things to come for the business, and that's exactly what happened when G4 did not work as a big network, and that was a heavily financed business, and it did not work. through a million reasons, and one of them is the apathy of the industry itself, all the marketing teams and stuff. You've gone through it too with with Game Informer. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a good sign when things like that, these potential pillars of consistency and good coverage and trust and respect that get built, and trust me, G4 had a long way to go with that. It certainly didn't reach the years that you guys were able to do, or the years that we were able to do, quite frankly, with EP. And that was through a lot of other goodwill and partners that we had extended beyond G4. But it takes time to build that stuff and to see it go away in any fashion, and then it not be improved upon, which is exactly what honestly has been happening. Like there hasn't been a better magazine that has come out that was better than Game Informer,
Well,
and
thank you.
there hasn't been a better video game network that came out to replace what G4 was. So we just lose these things, and if the Game Awards go away because people are like over it or whatever, what do we think? The next year we're going to have a better show than the Game Awards that reaches as many people? No. And they're not perfect. Jeff is learning and tweaking and turning the dials and taking in the feedback. And I know what it takes to build one of those. I helped create the Canadian Game Awards, and we were running that for a while. And it's tough. It's tough to build something that has value and is entertaining, honors the people that build the work that you're honoring, and has value that can sustain itself, over time and keep growing. No. So yeah, people should think about the replacement and the efforts to build that replacement before they come with all their negative, juju about what's existing. Like, okay, you hate this, make it better. What's your idea?
Victor, I've taken up so much of your time. We're going to wrap up the show, but before we do that, what do you have going on over at Electric Playground and EP Daily?
I'm cranking on content still. It's still a busy time of the year, so I've got some new reviews that I'm putting together based on some films and some games and stuff that are winding down 2025. So pretty consistently every week I've been making a new episode of Reviews on the Run, which is a collection of the things that I see and stream and play throughout the week. So we'll look for that. I've got a podcast with Naomi Kyle coming up very soon. She's terrific.
Yeah.
And some more streams, and then the Rocket and Ray Gun Awards, which is the awards that I've been putting together and our team has been putting together for a long time, which is our Game of the Year stuff. But I wait until the whole year is done. I wait until all the December stuff comes out, and I give everything a little bit of time, and then we put all of our stuff together. So that'll be in early January. And then I'll be on, and then we're also launching Judgment Day / Reviews on the Run classic episodes starting next weekend. We've been running, we just are concluding 7 seasons of EP Classic and starting with episode 1 of our 8th season, which was also the time that we splintered off and launched our sister show, Judgment Day or Reviews on the Run in Canada. And so EP and the classic reviews will be running Saturdays at 9 a.m. Pacific until 10 a.m. Pacific every Saturday. So I've got thousands of episodes, and we're just going to stream premiere them. And so I'm in the chat, and sometimes guests that were on the show pop into the chat and stuff. And
that's so cool.
And so that's all on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/EPNTV. And then I'm all over, Instagram and TikTok and all the other socials with lots of other content. And honestly, that's been through a great partnership that we have with the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and our sponsors and partners at P&P Games, who have just been incredible allies, really saw the value in our history and honestly the televised history of video games. We were kind of unique in our space. So it's been really cool and gratifying to re-experience all that stuff with their support, their help, and viewers are digging it. So that's what I'm doing. A little bit of everything, past and present and future.
Well, you're obviously a very busy man, but thank you so much for joining me for this episode of All Things Nintendo.
Oh, I loved it, Brian. Thanks for having me, pal. I'll see you soon.
And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get any questions or comments in, but you can also get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or hit me up on Instagram or Blue Sky at Brian P. Shea. Victor, tell everybody your social media handles.
I'm still on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. It's Victor_Lucas, but I'm also on Blue Sky. It's Victor Lucas at bluesky.social, I think. And then I'm Batwing on Instagram.
That is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of All Things Nintendo. Before we close out the show, I just want to give a special shout out to the $10 patrons of the podcast. Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jawar Hello, Johnny Five, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, KC Radio Man, Cody Gibson, Creeper 207, Ozman 83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichert, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, Zane Sink, and Zek 3 Swords Sama. Thank you so much for your continued support. You are the reason I'm able to keep doing this week after week.